One thing we know, America is a place where you can get arrested for doing nothing. You could be sitting on your front porch, a cop will come rolling by, stop, approach you, start an altercation, and next thing you know, you're handcuffed and being taken off to jail. Or you may be killed. Okay? You may be killed just for sitting on your stoop. This is America. This is why I don't go along with, well, if you don't want to be in jail, don't do the crime. Everybody in jail did not do the crime. That's why I don't say that. When I start taking a closer look at the system, it is so corrupt, it shouldn't exist. That's how badly corrupt this whole system is. It shouldn't even exist. So this came out in Cincinnati.com, ladies and gentlemen, April 17th, 2019, just like we suspected. Now, you may remember the 4 Black inmates that were shackled to a table. And this white supremacist inmate comes up with a makeshift knife and starts stabbing them. And I remember one of the complaints that all of us had watching that video footage was, why did it take the guards so long to come in there and stop it? Well, you're about to find out that the guards were in on the whole thing. And I think we all kind of suspected that because, number one, when them guards came in, they were walking. They weren't even running. After something that serious happening, they walked in, they strolled in. I was like, no, something ain't right. Their actions will always give it away, y'all. Every single time. So the white supremacist prison inmate and the guards were all in on the whole thing. Just let them die. Ohio guards laughed as white supremacists stab, cuff Black inmate, suit says. This warden needs to be fired. Those guards need to be fired and jailed because they participated in trying to murder 4 inmates. But we know in this system, they got it so rigged up, they'll probably just walk. The white inmate, he has nothing to lose. He's not getting out anyway. And he has a history of stabbing people, including staff, in that prison. But it still wasn't bad enough for them not to side with him in this particular incident, right? They all got on code. So let's get into it, ladies and gentlemen. Once again, you can't fault the messenger for telling the truth. An Ohio prison staff acted with callous indifference as a white supremacist attacked 4 Black inmates handcuffed to a table, according to a federal lawsuit filed earlier this month in the Southern District of Ohio. 2 correctional officers identified only by their surnames, Faye and Dalton, laughed as the 4 Black inmates were brutally stabbed in June 2017. And remember, they didn't release this video until an entire year later. We saw this in 2018. The suit says the incident was captured on surveillance footage and viewed by millions. The suit seeks $75,000 in damages on behalf of 2 of the victims, Shamiki Pugh and Maurice Lee. And as far as I'm concerned, all of them were victimized and should receive some kind of damages. Now, I know since then, I think a few of them were released. It claims the victims' civil rights were violated. including that they suffered cruel and unusual punishment because of the prison guards' inaction. Exactly. Exactly. Staying on code, y'all. Staying on code. According to the lawsuit, Pugh and Lee and two other black inmates were strip searched before they were allowed out of their cells for recreational time. They were then handcuffed to a table. So the guard, they had this whole thing planned out, y'all. They had the whole thing planned out. But Greg Reinke, who pleaded guilty in the attack, was not strip searched before he was cuffed to an adjacent table. So they made sure, these guards on purpose made sure this white inmate had his weapon and was not handcuffed to the table just like the black men were. All planned and orchestrated. Reinke is identified in the suit as a member of the Aryan Brotherhood, a violent white supremacist group. Guards gave Reinke a key, or knew or should have known that Reinke had a key or device to unlock his handcuffs. Reinke used an 8-inch blade in the attack and had a 12-inch blade in his sock. Faye and Dalton, the guards, stood nearby behind a locked door and laughed as Mr. Pugh, Mr. Lee, and the other inmates were stabbed. Faye and Dalton should be in jail. Put them next to those inmates that got stabbed, or put them in the same cell. Two of the inmates suffered several stab wounds and heavy bleeding, while the other two sustained minor injuries. After one victim escaped, his cuffed and shackled, Reinke guards pepper sprayed the victim and not Reinke. Yeah, because he got the best of them, y'all. If you go and watch that video, when that black man was able to slip out of his cuffs, he got the best of that white supremacist. That's why those guards came in there and pepper sprayed him and not the white supremacist inmate. He was getting the best of them. The guards, including a sergeant identified as John Doe, did not immediately render aid to the victims, and 10 minutes passed before nurses arrived. Reinke had a history of carrying knives on 2 occasions prior to June 17th. He'd stabbed or attempted to stab other inmates. The Lucasville prison warden, Ronald Erdos, is also named as a defendant in the suit, which says he and faculty staff knew Reinke was a violent threat, yet did nothing to prevent this violence. The suit also accuses unidentified correctional officers of later beating Pugh. Then he sought medical attention for chest pains and high blood pressure. So these guards and these white supremacists are running amok in this prison. Well, just like the outside world, everybody's running amok out here in public too. The suit includes 11 charges of civil rights violations, including that the victim's right to equal protection was violated. In addition to Faye, Dalton, and Erdos, the suit also names as defendants unidentified nurses, healthcare providers, and other correctional officers. Renke was sentenced to 54 years in the bloody attack, videos of which was obtained by the Associated Press and went viral last year. Remember, this came out, I think, like late fall of last year. It could have been in the winter, but I believe it was late fall. Renke was sentenced to an additional 32 years behind bars for an attack about 8 months later on a corrections officer. Prosecutors said Renke and another inmate stabbed the officer 32 times. So this guy just goes buck wild with a knife. You know, it's amazing how he's an inmate in there, but nobody can get the knives away from him. Oh, I know why. They're all on the same team. Renke was already serving a life sentence for a 2004 Cleveland murder before the stabbings. The AP recently reported Renke is on a hunger strike because he believes he's being mistreated in prison. Well, good. Hopefully he'll starve himself completely to death. Okay. Y'all see what happened, right? These guards and the inmate were all in cahoots with each other. And believe me, this ain't the only jail this is happening in. This is happening all across the damn country. Sometimes these correction officers are bigger criminals than the criminals in there. But please tell me what you think. This is sick. All of these men need to be fired and jailed for orchestrating a violent act on inmates and tried to make them defenseless by shackling them to a table. But this just proves all of the corruption that's going on in jail, ladies and gentlemen. They got you in a situation where you can't call 911 if you get raped or stabbed in prison. You are literally defenseless. And see, this is why they got that 13th Amendment bullshit in place in the first place. They want to make you a slave again and make you absolutely defenseless behind bars. And this is exactly how they wanted to set this system up and been carrying it out ever since. They need slaves in America. They can't live without them. They have not lived through 1 century, 1 decade, 1 day in America without slaves. If there aren't any slaves, you get your cops on the street and arrest people and make them slaves anyway, even if they didn't commit a crime. That's the real America. The country that locks up more of their citizens than any other country on the face of the earth. That right there speaks for itself. Please leave your comment and subscribe. Don't forget to hit on the notification bell, and I'll see you on the next video. Peace, family.